Alrighty, so we have some pumpkins here that my pumpkin vine had died, this one in particular, from just the squash bugs got it, and I think it had a vine borer, and it was grown out of the compost pile anyways, so I didn't mind that these guys were a little small, but they're also, they're not soft, but they've got like a bunch of chew spots, and they're not gonna store very well. And they're certainly not really big enough for me to make much of a meal out of. And these were backstory on my pumpkin origin story time. Last fall, at the time of recording, my partner Randy had gotten me a bouquet of pumpkins for the autumn equinox, and it was very nice, and I held on to them until maybe January or February, whenever they had finally started to expire. They were getting kind of mushy and growing stuff, and so I popped them into the compost bin, and now I've got second generation pumpkins. No idea what variety they are or anything like that, but I'm cleaning them up with a paper towel, just a shop towel, trying to get any debris off of them. I've never tried to make a silicone mold of something organic like this before. I don't mind the little pox marks and stuff, but I do want to make sure that, like, I'm not going to be leaving any crud in my mold, because we've got some leaves that are kind of dried on. We've got a little bit of stem material. Just trying to get it nice and tidy. I haven't sealed these with anything. I'm experimenting, so we'll see if that's something that even needs done. So the first step is going to be to make our form that we're casting the silicone in to make the mold. I think I'm going to start with this little guy. He's got some character on him, some little lumps and bumps and stuff, but he fits perfectly inside just this clear solo cup. Now, used to, I would try to make my molds out of Tupperware pieces like this, because I was like, oh yeah, that's nice and sturdy, that'll do great. It's very difficult to remove the silicone from this. I want something that's just durable enough that it can hold up, but that I can easily cut off to remove. And I'm going to take this and just come in here, and this is quite dull, isn't it? Well, I'll see if I can do this without chopping my hands off. There we go. I'm just removing the end here, and I'll actually be able to use the end of this cup, not to, enable hoarding tendencies or anything, but I'm going to hold on to the end of this because this is perfect for mixing paint as like a palette, or making another small mold in. I can, kind of take care of that. So now I'm going to hot glue this to a probably cardboard base, just something that we can do, flat surface, but I'm going to begin by hot gluing the pumpkin to that cardboard, then applying the hot glue and putting that over it. That way it's a lot easier to do that than it is to try to settle a pumpkin with hot glue on the bottom in through the top of the mold. So let me rummage that up, and I'll meet you guys right back here through the magic of editing. Alrighty, so it feels like my heat gun's heating up. So I'm actually going to use, I don't plan on moving my mold, and I couldn't find any cardboard. Well, if I gave up, I'm lazy. So I'm going to come through and just hot glue this onto a sheet of magazine paper. I just need a barrier. It'll be fine. I'm doing a bunch of globs though. It's right there on the bottom, and then I'm going to just sploot that right there. Because I'm hoping, the goal is to have that end up being about the size of where like a tea light could fit in. Because I'd like to make this a little, like, where I can put like a tea light in the bottom. So that's my goal with that. It's looking pretty good. It doesn't have to be centered. I'm just figuring it out. We're experimenting. And now Yep, still fits. That's great. Because I want to try to get it to where there's an equal amount of space around the pumpkin. Pumpkin. Not worried about the edges being super pretty or anything like that. I have used like sheets of like Cricut sticker paper or something like that to stick my molds onto, and everything's like nice and crispy, clean edges. But this is a mold for me. I'm not very good at making tidy molds anyhow, so if it works, it works. And now I'm just going to place this over. I just want to prevent leakage. So there we are. Checking from all sides. It's a little too close to that side than it is to this side. But we can actually just pull that up, and I'm going to try this again. And this will give us a little bit deeper of a base for our pumpkin too, so that'll be good. Apparently hot glue doesn't really like sticking to pumpkins, because that pulled up really easily. Okay, well, it proved to be easier the way opposite of what I originally had thought. So you'll figure out your preferred way. I'm still figuring out mine. Now these are 16-ounce cups, I think. 32-ounce, I don't know. I should have looked into that. Does it say on the bottom? No. But we need to fill it to about here. And I do have some other molds lined up, that like things that I need to make a mold out of. Where would be something I can make a little mold out of real quick? Okay, yeah, 16 ounces. I googled it because it's the future. And that pumpkin's probably going to be displacing a pretty substantial amount of that. Like, not quite a full 8 ounces, but I'm going to mix up 10 ounces, so 5 ounces each. And this is a volume, not a weight. So, and this is, with silicone, I just reuse the same mixer cup. So, I've already stirred these guys really well. Oh no, I'm making a mess with my hot glue gun. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug that. So I've made an excess silicone mold, or rather like mold box that just has a pretty quartz crystal in it that I'd like to make a mold of, because I'd like to make some resin replicas of it. And it's just a little paper Dixie cup with the crystal hot glued into the bottom. I've already mixed parts A's and B, and I'm coming in here and I'm going to be doing 5 ounces of part A and 5 ounces of part B, because this was a 16-ounce glass, or a 16-ounce, solo cup. And I'm thinking about it, and I'd rather... Let's go ahead and I'm going to do the full 16 ounces just because it's easy to measure on here, and I have this to do excess into, and I'm sure I can find something else to pour it into if necessary. But this this compound that I'm using, the Umu 25, has a 15-minute pot time, and it cures in about 75 minutes at, it says 73 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius. So we'll keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and scooch this back just a bit to be a little bit more in frame. Let's measure out our, got my little stir sticks. And you can probably hear a fan going. There, a big old clod came out of there. I tried to stir it as best I could, but I'm thinking maybe I did not stir it that well. Like maybe I didn't scrape the sides as well as what I should have. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Sure, if you do better than me, like better at stirring, you'll get much better results. Ah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So there is our first 8 ounces, which I have completely boogered it up and gotten it all up on the sides and stuff. But we're now going to dump out another 8 ounces. There we go. And now I'm going to stir the heck out of this until it is fully incorporated, and I just use a chopstick to do that. I've been doing that. This is the same chopstick I've been using for a couple of years at this point. The silicone cleans off of it really nicely. But just so you can see how that looks. It's starting to swirl, get some color incorporation. You want it to be completely mixed until there are no more streaks. Now, Smooth On has a lot of, if you want to see how this is done like properly, they have some videos on their website and on their YouTube channel. Just, you know, give it a Google, do some like search Smooth On, and but like right there, how it looks all like pretty and marbled, not even close to being done. Keep stirring. And I'm going to throw my respirator on and do this in time lapse. I do have a vent fan going, but it's better safe than sorry. We only get so many lungs for the most part. If your arm does not hurt, then you are not done stirring. My arm is so tired. And I'm still stirring, but it looks pretty good. I incorporated a lot more air bubbles than what I would have liked, but you know, again, if I can do it this poorly and it still come out well, hopefully, I'm sure you'll do fantastically. Okay, so I'm just going to set this off to the side because that will cure and I'll be able to just clean it right off. Woo! Big old glob came out. You're supposed to do it all like, oh, nice and thin and everything. Well, here we are. There we go. I have a nice thin ribbon of silicone coming down, and I'm trying to pour just in one area. That way it'll slowly seep and expel any bubbles as it comes. It's even better, I think, if you pour from like way up high, but also this is heavy and my arms are already pretty tired. If we had like a pressure pot or something like that, I wouldn't have to worry as much. But it's always good to take care in what you're doing. At the time of recording, we have recently returned our niece to her family in Tennessee after her spending the summer with us. And at every little noise, every little movement of anything outside of the house, the dogs jump up and they run to the door and they're like, is that Maddie? Is she here? And my poor heart is broken. But we had a fantastic summer, getting to spend a lot of time together, go on many an adventure. Ooh, okay. Don't want to get impatient, and you know, I could have trimmed the stem shorter, I think, but it was a super cute stem, you guys. This would be a great opportunity for me to have used some like scrap silicone chunks and just used them as filler to fill in all of this empty space. Okay, cool. So there is that. I'm just gonna remove that. Because I want to give myself at least like about 1/4 of an inch between the end of the stem and where the bottom of the mold will end up being. And now let's give this another stir just to be sure that everything's nice and incorporated, because now that the sides are a little bit more exposed, I really did like a crap job on stirring this. But we'll see if it works. Like, and this is a big reason why I do not sell my molds, is because if it's a buggered up, like horrible, I'm the only one who has to deal with that. I'll mess up my own work all day, but I do not want to risk selling something to one of our happy crafters that might mess up your work, you know? Cool beans. So now let us, and you can see that's a bunch of air bubbles, but I'm gonna just pour nice and slow off to the side. I don't know if you can see down in the mold. I cannot. I'm getting my head in the way. It makes a nice thin ribbon, and you can see those bubbles popping. There we go. And I think I have enough pot time left off camera. I'm going to go and use this for another crystal mold, because those are pretty quick and easy. And now, little Slappy make Vaughn happy. We're going to slam it on the... If you're not enjoying what you're doing, what's the point? We're going to slam it on the table. Try to get all that silicone settled. Try to not make too much of a mess. Can't do this obviously with the cup on the paper, but that was the first one that we had done, so the silicone compound was least set up at that point, so it had time for all the bubbles to hopefully raise up and out. Whereas this one was the last one that I had done, and it had gotten pretty thick there at the end. I want to make sure I'm not knocking anything loose as well. So I'm going to leave them like this. It says it cures in 75 minutes, but I'm going to wait to unmold it until tomorrow, just because that's how my project rotation is going on. So through the magic of editing, I'll meet y'all back here then. Okay, so our mold has set up. Oops. So I am gonna peel off that magazine. And then we can, and this is the same day, by the way, as the original part of our video. I just want to loosen up a bit. And if you have trouble with it, don't fret. You just get in there and snip, snip. I just want to be able to loosen this. That way, oof. The idea is that we'll be able to loosen it. Maybe if I snip on the other side. Well, I've done flung that across the house now. I'm just getting my mold cup. I just wanna get my pumpkin out of there. There we go. Yeah, we're getting it. Okay. So now, how do we get our pumpkin out of here? I guess I should have made the base be, whoa, oh no, my pumpkin's stuck forever. Oh boy, I'm having to wrestle with it, because I'm going to try to do this without, I don't think I'll be able to do it without cutting the mold. Because if we don't have to cut it, then that's less cleanup, but there it is. So I'm hoping if I can just do one cut on the side, that'll be enough that we can. I'm gonna have to do it on both sides, I'm afraid. There we go. Okay, we're making some progress. Whoop. Up and, oh, son of a bisquick. Okay, there it is. Well, we broke off the stem, but now we have, oh, and there's some moisture condensation in there, so I'm going to let this dry overnight before I try casting in it. But I just wanted to show you guys how I struggle at demolding stuff. And with that just being on the top, it should be fine for whenever we cast, but we shall see. So the first step that I've done here is I'm using a little bit of like nail art glitter powder. And I am just smashing that with an old paintbrush down into where our stem is going to be. Then I'm going to toss it into some time lapse for y'all as I mix up our resin. I am using Smooth Cast. It's a smooth on product, but it has a really short pot time and it cures in about, it says 10 minutes. I leave it in the mold for about half an hour just to be certain. So let's do it. So I've come to the realization I don't have the little tea lights that I thought I had. And I know they're somewhere in this house, but where is a very good question that I don't have the answer to at this moment. So we may be able to like drill and add some LEDs after the fact, or we could go through and use one of these set into the resin. Let's actually do that, because I got these for like $4 in the floral section, I think at like Hobby Lobby, but you can get them from anywhere, I'm sure. And I am just going to try my darndest to put these in a way that I don't want. How are we going to do that, actually? Also, this is only part one of the of our resin compound. So we could just wad this up. Yeah, let's wad it up kind of nice. I say. Wad it up into a kind of a pumpkin shape. And then stuff that all on the inside. Because why not? And I do have some overflow molds. I'm going to kind of cram that. No, I'm just going to leave it sit. I have these other molds that we had made of the crystals, just for, I'm mixing up 4 ounces of this resin, which the more you mix of this, the faster it cures. So we're going to have to be quick, but that's all right. We'll figure it out. And the nail art stuff that I put in there, I should have mixed just a little bit in first, because, like, okay, I should have made a roux with it, is what I mean, in cooking terms. At least I think that's correct, where I add just a little bit of one part of the resin to all of the compound I'm going to be using, and make sure all of the chunks are dissolved and removed, because now I've got some chunks. It's a little chunkier. I can get away with not doing that with most of my Pearl-Ex pigments, but this stuff seems to have a slightly higher moisture content perhaps, so it clumps a little bit more. But after leaving it sit for a bit and like poking it with my stick, it'll be fine. And I'm also not super concerned about perfection ever. Like, because in my soul, I am a perfectionist, but I have had to just cram that down and do a little jar and put the lid on, because otherwise I would never get any projects done, because the desire for perfection inhibits the room to do creative chaos and mess up and make mistakes. And, so I just kind of threw it out the window. I still appreciate perfection if or when it ever happens, but I let go of that ages ago. So I'm going to open this over the trash can because it kind of like crystallized a little bit around the top of the jar and like makes a mess every time I open it. So now we did 2 ounces of that first part, and now we're going to do another 2 ounces of this part. And I've thoroughly incorporated our pigment first because I need to stir this just as quick as what I can, get everything nice and incorporated, because that chemical reaction is already happening, and the more of this resin that we have mixed together, the faster it's heating. So again, I want it very well incorporated. Fortunately, it's a very nice and runny, not a whole lot of bubbles. I can feel it heating already, so let's hope that was enough. And I'm going to just pour this. I hope I'm in frame. And I am just filling our mold. And we can fill it right up to the base. We can have a little bit of overflow because we are going to get some shrink, I think. And you can see if we had any little lumps and stuff that would have stayed in the bottom. And this is quite warm. Now I can feel through the cup. So there's a little crystal. And now I'm going to pour some in this one because we might be able to do multiple castings. And I don't know, see what happens. I hate to waste resin, so. And you can cast other resin on top of resin. And with this one, we can actually, this stuff cures so quickly that you can do a little bit of a rotational mold. Just like that. It's super thick. And almost not flowing at all. Yep. But yeah, I can hold it upside down and it's not, oh, there's still a little bit of, I mean, it's as thick as cold honey right now. But yeah, we'll have to see how that rotational casting experiment comes out. And from here, I'm going to let it just settle down into the tip. So I'm going to let this cure, and I'll meet you guys back here when we unmold it. So I'm impatient. I cleaned up my whole spot, and it's still not done yet. So, or rather, it's not cool yet. I wanted to, it's kind of technically scrapping the piece, but I'm unmolding just the crystal tip that we had made because I'd like to see how that rotary casting came out. And for the sake of what I typically do with stuff like this is I can actually trim this excess off and have, instead of having a full length crystal, I have like a little boulder crystal that is, I think is perfect for incorporating into like fairy houses and different things like that. So you can see there's a little chunk floating in there of the pigment. So it's not quite the effect that I was looking for. It all kind of settled in. I should have kept rotating, I think, but it did make a nice little casing. So that's pretty neat. And now I'm going to unmold this little crystal. Oh, now that is cool. And again, it's not a realistic crystal color at all. But for like little fairy houses or like just fun like kids jewelry or something. Or I don't know, that might be your favorite color and this is your favorite thing. Don't let me yuck your yum. Okay, so this one, there is a lot of mass on this one. So it got quite hot. I'm going to be very careful to not pull on it by the cord, even though that's my like first impulse. Like I kind of wish I could do like thermal imaging or something, because this is, I mean, almost out of the oven hot. And I should probably wait, but I'm not gonna. Because I really, really, really want to see how this came out. We had to cut the mold initially to get the first section out. I think I'm gonna cut just a little bit more. And we'll have to rubber band it on the next time I make this. But I'm pretty okay with that, just for the sake of I don't want to bust the mold trying to get my pumpkin out. You see how that's kind of, and those will fit together, bloop, just perfect with a rubber band around it. So having that little bit of a base to hold on to just rips right off. Oh yeah, that is cool. So now we have a little lit up pumpkin, y'all. Just a little bit to clean off on both sides. A little bit of the wire stuck to the surface. That's okay. There's no batteries in this. Let me grab some batteries and we'll see if it lights up. So I have the batteries in. Oh my god, I love it. That is so cool. You know what we should have done was do glow in the dark powder as well, because then y'all, whenever we switched it off, it'd still be glowing. That would be so neat. Oh, that pleases me immensely. Very cool stuff. I'm not entirely certain what my final application of this is going to be. I don't want all of my, knickknacks laying about the house to have a cord like this on it. I think it would have been really cool to have been able to like set a tea light in this, which would have been really cool. But sometimes you do what you can with what you've got. And I am not upset about this at all. Is it a cute little pumpkin, you guys? And also, I bet if we came through with some acrylics and like darkened in some of those lines and stuff, we could somehow, I'm sure, figure out how to incorporate this with like a larger display. But I do think having even just like a little button battery LED instead of something like that. But my goal is, and also the whole point of all of this was to experiment with using an actual friggin' pumpkin to make the mold. And I have to say, I think that went phenomenally. This is just perfect. Now, I don't know if I'd do it with pumpkins that I intend to eat, but just for like decoration, like decorative pumpkins, yeah, I think this is going to be pretty cool. Not a whole lot of scuzz or anything stuck in it left. I mean, I say that, but there's like a dog hair poking out the side. I think this came out pretty cool. And I have goals to make like sculpted mushroom, probably separate molds for the cap and for the stem, and figure out how to join those together. But I'd really like to be able to make some pretty large, like maybe anywhere between 8 and 12 inches big, like mushroom sculptures that glow in the dark and quite possibly hook into a solar LED system for yard ornamentation. So this is the first step of many towards getting to that point. artistically. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. If you enjoy our free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, and you've already subscribed, you've already tickled my like button and all that stuff, you can join our craft along club for as little as $1 a month or $12 a year. That goes a long way in helping to support the creation of more tutorials. We also have our newsletter that's free to sign up for, and we send out updates every time we have a new video or a shop update or anything like that. We also send out exclusive coupons in that newsletter. But thank you guys so much for just being you and for hanging out here today. And until next time, y'all, happy crafting. Bye.